The United Nations International School is the original IB diploma school in America. We attract students from over 140 countries and we're a K-12 school. My name is Stephanie Castle and I'm an IB biology teacher at UNIS and also 9th grade coordinator. The lesson that you're going to see today is a genetics lesson focused on pedigree charts where the students will be asked to be deducing the genotypes and phenotypes of the individuals in Queen Victoria's famous pedigree chart. All right guys, so I want you to think back to the last lesson that we had right before spring break where we were looking at haemophilia, yes? Okay, so by the end of the lesson I'm going to need for you guys to have laid out your cards, constructed a pedigree chart and answer the questions on the online quiz software so that I can see how far you've got individually. The approach to teaching and learning that we're going to see today is critical thinking. So the students will be learning to recognize their assumptions. They'll be looking at the evidence that's provided and using that evidence to draw conclusions. For example, deducing the genotypes and phenotypes of individuals in Queen Victoria's pedigree chart. Move cards around to draw, to change, whatever you got to do. For me, critical thinking in biology is about the students really recognizing their assumptions and justifying the conclusions that they draw. So in the past, we've conducted planning labs, an integral part of the IB practical scheme of work, whereby the students have collected evidence, collected data, and then they've drawn conclusions for that, and it's necessary for them to justify those conclusions. I'm hoping that this will strengthen their work in other subjects, such as their literary and history analysis, and that when they come to join into those subjects that they will then again recognise assumptions and justify their conclusions in those subjects also. So at this point I'm looking to see what the students have achieved so far, and I can see from my online software here that there are a number of students that have made an attempt to answer majority of the questions at this point, and some of them have got further than others. There's notably a couple of students here who have several of the answers incorrect. So I know now to go and discuss with them what their challenges are in those first questions. So look at Alice and label up their genotypes on there. And if these ones you're uncertain of, then that's exactly the way they should stay.
One of the most important skills that I learned in this lesson is to reflect on your own thought processes and justify why you're thinking that way. You may just think, oh, well, this person is clearly a carrier. You actually have to justify that. And you may see it clearly in your head, but just having to reflect on why you think that and explaining it to others is really helpful. And I think that's a skill that you need to learn.
It gives you a whole mindset that whenever you come to a question, you have to look deeper into it and you have to look at all the different perspectives and possibilities of that question.
My intention for the development of critical thinking in this lesson was for the students to recognise the assumptions, particularly where they concern the females in the pedigree chart. In the future with this class, I'd like to use this concept of recognising assumptions and of justifying their conclusions, particularly when it comes to practical work that is part of the IB biology course, which is one of the parts that students tend to find the most challenging in this course. So I would be looking to encourage, when we move on to our next piece of practical work, that we revisit the idea of assumptions and of the data and evidence that they have in front of them, and for them to really focus on using that evidence to justify their conclusions.